We are the Meltdown here with yet another episode review of House of the Dragon Season 2. This time we're into Episode 3. I don't remember the actual name of this episode.
The Burning Mill, according to Wikipedia.
Mill. I assume that is referring back to how the episode started, where we saw a group of Brackens and a group of Blackwoods getting a little mouthy with one another. A little bit of a pushing contest, then all of a sudden you see a sword drawn, and then we fast forward following what is an off-screen battle, the very first battle of the Dance of Dragons, to a field covered in the corpses of both. I'm Tim Melton. That is John Lunsford. Producer Tyler's here. Rockstar along for the ride of House of the Dragon Season 2. John, what did you make of the creative choice to make this an off-screen battle in a show that's biggest complaint from the audience thus far has been a lack of action?
It sure seems like we're going to head there eventually after watching the look ahead for next week, but it was an interesting choice to not show that with a little bit of shoving at the beginning. I thought, okay, some sword play, we need some action, and then they just fast forwarded. And it was kind of confusing because I'm like, wait, is this like foreshadowing to what's going to eventually happen with this? What exactly is happening with this? And then kind of through the episode, they start explaining what happened, and hey, they were already fighting with each other. They already hated each other, and it was a little confusing at first, the choice that they made. I wasn't a big fan of it, but, you know, it ended up kind of sort of working once you get through the full episode.
Yeah, I thought it was very jarring, which it was supposed to be. It was supposed to show you the casualties of war for sure. I have to ask right now whether or not, Rockstar, you feel like there's been too much setup. We're 3 episodes in, and it's been a lot of setup here, a lot of people wanting this war to happen. Some of the characters, though, conflicted of whether or not they actually want war, and this episode was all about who wants to go to war and who doesn't, who's being more reserved. And that's what the entire theme of this episode was about. Do you like the pacing so far?
I do.
Of House of the Dragon Season 2?
I do, because I'm not a big action sequence guy. I did like the... can't think of the word, but the fact that we didn't see it happen. I didn't like that part of it. Like some stuff's kind of like the sex part. It's understood where I don't have to see bloody battle scenes and everything to understand that it actually went on. The aftermath is much more telling, especially like, God, they got a lot of bodies in that place.
Did anybody survive?
No. And was that the sword he was showing off to everybody?
The one that was like stabbed into him?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. But I like the dialogue of it. Another thing I asked my wife last night, does Alicent have the one green dress, or is it seriously, is it the one green dress, or she has like a bunch of them like bat suits? Like,
she's like Ernest P. Worrell. She has the same outfit.
So I always thought about that, because Rhaenyra's got something different at least every other episode. But I do like the pacing. I like the board meetings with the little marbles on the thing where everybody goes ape. I enjoyed that stuff more than a big dragon fight. I'm one of the minority of those people.
Now, Rockstar, I immediately thought of you last night when we entered the brothel scene.
Thank you.
Because
to see Aemon's almond.
You've been very transparent about one of the things you didn't like about Game of Thrones was just the in-your-face, literally, in-your-face nudity and the over-the-top sex acts. And we got a lot of that in the brothel last night. It felt very Games of Thrones-ish to me when we saw what we saw.
It was shocking, but I think they didn't, the first curtain that was opened in the action, the thing that was going on, it was 3 seconds.
Yeah, they held there for a second.
But it wasn't like, let's our two characters have a conversation while this is happening, rather where they're just going to stay on it. Like it was more like, whoa! Okay, and then they're on to another thing. I understand that, but like I don't like that where they're forced that we're just going to keep this here, and we're going to make you while these two people talk about this guy losing his chastity. It's like, why? So, and then Aemon, the almond thing, I didn't understand that part. That was really mean of him to, what do they say, a prostitute's a prostitute in the lighter language than that.
I think he was trying to act tough and not offended by the ridicule that he was suffering at the hands of his brother.
Obviously, this person that he is with is kind of like really his mother figure, because Alicent is doing her own thing with Sir Criston usually. So I get the whole vibe that's going for, and then he kind of had to turn. I'm going to be tough in front of my brother.
But the thing is, it's been the past 2 episodes. Do you think he goes there with her and cuddles every night?
It sure seems that way.
Yeah. I mean,
because we have seen it multiple times.
Yeah. It seems to be the only place he is truly vulnerable.
Yeah. Like I'm not even wearing the eye patch. Like I'm taking everything off.
I want to go back to John real quick. Tyler, I'm going to get to you, I promise, but I have to ask John about this. You like Rhaenys right?
Yeah, Rhaenys, yeah.
Rhaenys. These names, I'm telling you,
Yeah,
we're all going to struggle throughout the season.
We're probably all getting it wrong, yeah.
We're now a season and almost a half through this series so far, and we still having problems with the name. Rhaenys, I think she's the most well-written character in the show.
I agree. That's why I like her the most. Because
she made some great points last night.
And all I can think the whole time is the whole debate of this entire show was, okay, he tried to make Rhaenyra the heir. We can't have a woman be the heir, so that caused the whole thing, whether it should be Daemon, whether it should be Alicent's kids, and then obviously what's happened is what's happened. But all I can think is if we go all the way back to before Viserys got it, remember it was between her and Viserys, a lot of this probably would have been avoided if they just given her the crown to begin with, which is probably what it should have been, because you can tell she probably would have been a pretty good leader. And every time she pops on screen, it's like, boy, they should have just made her queen to begin with, and we could have avoided all this.
Things were pretty peaceful during Viserys' time, though.
And they were fine when I'm not saying Viserys was bad, but obviously giving it to him has now led to all of this, as opposed to her being in charge to begin with. And I'm sure you probably have, House of the Sea Snake instead playing out if she had become queen. But every time she's on screen, it's like whatever she says, whatever look she's giving you, go with it, because that's probably actually the best course of action to take.
I loved the whole line of dialogue of when did the war actually start? And she starts going through all these different things.
Yep.
And every single one of them, the argument makes sense for that's actually when the war starts. That's actually when the war starts. And it seems inevitable, but she pleads to please consider the alternative path of peace. So Rhaenyra decides that she's going to meet with Massaria, the White Worm, and figure out how she can get in the room at some point with Alicent. And she's told the only place that Alicent goes alone where you could possibly get her one-on-one is the Great Sept. And so we get a lot of candles burning there. Obviously, if you've seen Game of Thrones, you know what happens there in the Great Sept.
And she looks just like Hannah Waddingham, a younger version of her, like the one from that plays Rebecca on Ted Lasso. That was the one that was going through the streets doing the shame with Cersei. She looks just like her, like facial. I know she's wearing the thing on her head, so you only see like this much of her face, but facial features and everything, it looks just like a younger version of her when she's walking into the Sept.
And maybe I'm spoiled by too many Mission Impossible movies where they go over the top with making sure that they're disguised, but Rhaenyra is very much just Rhaenyra in a nun suit, and it works. It gets her through. She doesn't have to find some twin to help infiltrate the Great Sept.
Well, it worked for her getting through King's Landing in season 1 just by putting on a hat.
That is also correct, yes.
Boy, he called me boy.
So, Tyler, how do you think this scene worked? Because we immediately see Rhaenyra pulling out a dagger from her sleeve and basically using it as an intimidation tactic. I guess she doesn't really want to strike down Alicent at that point, but I thought there was some weird chance we may actually see her just start stabbing her right there and just forget the actual conversation. It didn't go that way. It's a little bit of a deception tactic towards the audience that's watching this interaction. These two decide they're going to sit down and they're going to hash things out as much as they possibly can. But Rhaenyra basically says, give me everything I want, and I'm going to give you nothing in return. And Alicent goes, that ship's already sailed, lady. I'm sorry, but this thing's already on the path it's on, and you need to back off before we end up gutting you. That pretty much summarizes how that conversation went.
Well,
there weren't a lot of concessions.
You're also leaving out a pretty big part where Alicent basically admitted, oh, wait,
There's an Aegon the Conqueror?
I think I maybe messed that one up. Now it's a little too far gone at this point, but when
there's like history?
I was giving the Cliff's Notes version, John.
I mean, I know you're Team Green, but you had to point out her part where it's like,
yeah, you conveniently left that
out. I messed that part up.
It's still up
which has led to all of this.
There's still some gray area there with Team Green.
It's pretty black and green to me.
How do you make out, Tyler, what actually took place between these two characters? Because it feels like the final straw. It feels like an agreement will not be reached, and we are now headed towards war.
Oh, man. It was just so tense. And then the moment where Rhaenyra says, wait, that's Aegon the Conqueror. He wasn't talking about the prince at all. It was almost like Alicent doubled down. It was just like, oh, well, too bad.
She really realized
it is what it is.
I have to double down at this point because I screwed up. That's exactly
I mean,
what it was.
I just feel like I'm not the biased one here. I feel like you're the biased
I'm
one
just
here.
telling you
Being
exactly
Team
what happened.
Green, I am not going to allow this blasphemy
I only
here
speak facts.
in the High Court, so I would appreciate if you would please. I don't even know if there is a place called the High Court. I think I just made that up.
I mean, you would have thought with all the time Allison spent with Viserys, like growing up before becoming his wife, that he would have told her like about the histories, not the Song of Ice and Fire necessarily, but
He only told
about
a select
Aegon
few.
the Conqueror and his exploits.
But do you think Rhaenyra could have at least said, in exchange for the throne, I will give you X, Y, or Z? Because she never even bargained. She was just like, give me what is mine, and you back off right now. What kind of a negotiation tactic is that? There was no negotiation.
The truth, because it's hers. So give it to me.
I just,
I mean,
At
that
this
it just
point-
feels like a hard line in the sand that Rhaenyra has drawn. It's, all right, you've taken my rightful place as heir. You've installed your son on the throne by completely misinterpreting the thing that meant so much to my father, and now you're still like, no, I'm going to double down. It's an ultimatum. You either completely back off or you risk all-out war.
regardless of biases, Rockstar, regardless of that, there is no chance now for peace. It is
No.
over. That ship has sailed. That was the last effort.
Well, this is the chance to admit that I was wrong, that I misinterpreted this something like, no, this is already over, and that it makes it seems like it elevated it even more because now she's even more pissed. I think she knows how much she's been manipulated in this. Allison, both of them have. Two quick things. I don't know if we're going to get to them. The burial of Eric and Eric, they were using teaspoons for dirt. I mean, they got nothing on them for that whole scene. Nothing. And then the introduction of effing Gwaine. I don't like the introduction of a new character. Gwaine, come on. Why?
Does it make you like Sir Kristen more? The fact that you hate Gawain so much?
Yeah, that's another thing. Well, just I don't. Why do we have to have another new? And of course, he's a relative. He's a brother. But also, Laris has the
Laris World. Gawain's World. Sorry, continue.
I think we're going to take over the throne. Whoa. Laris has the actor aged or has the character aged? Because he has aged.
He has aged, and I didn't notice it till this
I mean,
episode.
like, I don't know if it's the actor or the character.
I thought it was a little bit of a different hair style. Like
It's a little longer.
We saw with Kristen. He still has yet to age, but he
cut
has a
his hair.
different hairstyle.
He cut his hair.
It's a bad haircut. It's a real bad haircut.
And I do think Laris has been in the shadows for most of everything to where you saw him in daylight when he came in and was telling everything. I feel like for the first time, and it's like, oof. I mean, I don't want to be super mean, but he walked in, his face was kind of
gaunt.
He had a little Rocky Dennis to him. It was interesting.
You got a little Rocky Dennis to you.
And
thank you.
What we saw in that scene was Aegon continues to surround himself with complete fools. And
With the
complete
guys
idiots.
sitting down on their watch. He's just sitting down, and Christian doesn't go off on them. Remember how he goes off on everybody for a dirty cloak, and he got a guy on guard just sitting on the stairwell.
And the weird thing is he told all of, like, when they were like, hey, this guy's a virgin, we need to go, do stuff. And Aegon got this look of like, no, I'm going to take it serious now. Like, no, y'all don't need to be that way. And then 5 minutes later, he's in a brothel and they're just going crazy and he's the ringleader of it. And it's like, okay. I feel like they had a chance to turn him of like, no, he's going to be more of a serious king. He realizes war is coming and I'm about to be at the forefront with one of my dragons. And it's like, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to deal with that.
Yeah, he ends up, running into the brothel. He sees his brother there, completely nude,
and his another uncle, of course.
Yes. Speaking of pecs, we saw Cheese having his eye eaten out by a bird there, and that was
How long have they been sitting there? Been sitting there for a while.
Been sitting there for a while.
They weren't sitting.
At least a couple of days. I think
is the dog gone? You never saw the dog, so the dog's morning phase is gone.
We just kind of saw it from up high. We didn't really see if the dog was still sitting there or not.
Daemon is off to a very wet and dreary Harrenhal, where he ends up encountering Sir Simon Strong, which is a part of the Strong family where he's just completely selling all of his stock on Laris, talking about how much he hates him. Do y'all believe that? Do y'all believe he actually hates him as much as he is proclaiming to Daemon that he does, as he is calling Rhaenyra the one true queen? Or do you believe that those peas were indeed poisoned and that Harrenhal won't go down as easy as maybe it looks like it will? Because Daemon's effectively taken it over without having to do anything other than just show up and say, I got a dragon on the roof.
I think shows what the the royal side of things are doing when trying to send Kristen and new brother and all that to kind of take, hey, no, let's not take a dragon. Let's just take a small party and we'll sneak in. And it's like Daemon went by himself with a dragon and took it over. Y'all could have just taken a dragon and had a nice fight there and figured it out. But
Would he have accepted them too? Whoever comes in here, I'm just
He
going to accept.
probably. What has he got? What his defenses does he have?
It was just, we're going to hang out until somebody comes, and then I guess
good
we'll hand it
venison.
over to him.
The Riverlands are thought by both sides to be very important in this strategic battle of war, with both Team Green and Team Black making it a priority. Old Grover Tully is said to be absolutely out of it, with his bannermen now turning against the cause and becoming unruly. Daemon's like, well, let me get into a room with him and I can talk through it. Daemon isn't really much of a talker. He's way more of a, I'm just going to terrorize you until you do what I want. And I don't know how much of a diplomat Daemon can actually be. Do you buy that he's going to be able to talk his way into?
Talking his way into anything is, once I get in
Strength?
the room, I'm going to pull the sword out and hold it at his throat.
I guess so.
And then I have no problem pushing the sword in if I need to, but hopefully the threat will be enough to make him do what I want.
Tyler, I thought of you, though, when I was watching the sequence last night with Daemon, because the one thing he can't solve with any of his physical prowess is the mental games that are being played, because he went through a series of nightmare events where you see the door barricaded by swords. He ends up taking the swords out. He cannot find the actual threat, and he walks into a room where he sees Millie Aycock right there, Alcock back right there. It's the first time we've seen her since midway through season 1. She is a fan favorite, and I think the reason we are seeing her is because of how much she is a fan favorite here in this series. And she's there sitting in a chair sewing on young Prince Jaehaerys's head and basically saying, Daemon...
After it fell off in the funeral. We're convinced it fell off in the funeral.
And basically telling Daemon, like, I'm always having to clean up your mess here. And it kind of rattles him because he does have very much a connection and an affinity for that version of Rhaenyra. And I'm curious how that played with you, because when you start getting into sort of the mental trippiness of Game of Thrones, there can be some real gold there from a viewer's perspective.
Oh yeah, I thought that scene was just absolutely crazy. The image of Rhaenyra sewing up Jaehaerys's head. These names are killing me, man.
I'm with you.
And it's now different actors playing them too, because she's back, and so now we have the young and the
tough.
old one.
It's tough.
Yeah, but I mean, Rhaenyra is always cleaning up Daemon's bloody messes. He is just so impulsive and so quick to
He
draw
just wants
the
what's
sword.
best for her. This is all for her.
He's quick. He's decisive with his actions, but then afterwards he doesn't know how to clean up the mess, and she is always having to do that. And it was, I thought, a really nice way to signify where the two characters are at right now.
Mm-hmm.
By bringing her back and having this moment. Some people feel like it was wasted because she could have done something bigger with a young Rhaenyra because she's so popular, but I thought it was a perfect time to do it. I wasn't expecting it.
I have to imagine there will be more of that. I can't imagine her coming back to film that one quick 2-second scene.
Maybe so.
More visions or whatever it may be.
What do you make of the current state of Daemon here? Because Rockstar is also being followed around by some sort of witch on the property, being told he's going to die in this castle.
But she was also in the room. She never said anything when he was eating with the dude. So I don't know who she is. And with him, it's like he's reflecting, like, man, at least he's reflecting on what I made the bad decision about cheese and rat head. What was his name? Cheese and chocolate?
Blood and cheese.
Yeah. Blood and cheese.
Cheese and chocolate.
I mean, this is it even more ridiculous than what it is. So he's at least, and how long is, there's no timeline. How long has he been gone? Remember, he just rode off.
I think it's just like a day.
Okay. And
they made a comment in this episode, speaking of time, as much time passed in the first season, they made a comment in this episode that it's been
just a few days.
That it should have been only a few weeks since Viserys died.
Yeah.
So
and
like all of that, I mean, because he died, episode 7, episode 8? So where
every death in the series is still fresh.
Yes.
Okay, so what's interesting to me is another poignant part is when Rhaenyra's whole family is leaving to go somewhere else, and so she's stuck, and then Daemon's gone, so she's all alone. Everybody's doing this for her, and she's so isolated. She's not doing. That's why she can't make any decisions in their little, I guess, their boardroom meetings. What the hell they are?
The war councils on both sides suck.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
Neither one of them can actually.
We got to act now.
Can actually lead to any progress here, and you even had an accusation of tyranny happening throughout all
Well,
of
like
this.
all of them. So
They say like you need to get your rest. We'll do this. You just go in the other room and remove yourself. Like what?
The councils of both of them are made up of other houses, like representatives from other houses. Like the small council of King's Landing, one of the Lannisters is on that council, and then there's basically whoever's pledged to them, and they're all like, "We've pledged, so let us go fight for you." Like, I don't actually have to do that, but my people are going to go do it for you. And they're all like, "Please, for the love of God, let's fight." And then it's like, "No, we don't need to." Now I'm hoping now things will amp up, and it seems like it will based on the preview. Now that they have talked and they realize there's no peace coming, let's go and fight. But the thing that kills me is you talk about how like Damon's gone, she's starting to have nobody there. Then she goes and sends all of her children and a bunch of dragons, which I found out the dragon eggs she sent are the dragon eggs that Daenerys ends up hatching in Game of Thrones. The director came out and said that. So
they were even put in the same sort of
little Easter egg there if you were curious about that.
Dragon egg.
But she sends off all of her kids and sends off everybody. I mean, she's literally sending everybody out like, "Hey, if I die, y'all are in charge."
Yeah.
And sends them off somewhere else. It's like, but nobody's going to be left here. Damon's gone. Everybody else is gone. I mean, Rhaenys is going to the Sea Snake to talk to him. That's one thing that still drives me nuts is we haven't fully gone into everything that's happening with the Valerians and the ships and everything. And there's all these characters that are kind of floating out
every
there.
now and then we get a little taste of
That I
what's going
imagine
on.
we're going to eventually get into that, but like there's just little trickles of that we're not quite really fully getting into, and that's kind of getting frustrating now at this point.
Can I tell you
3 episodes in.
an honest admission from me that I don't do that? I'm sure you. I don't like watching the teaser ahead.
I don't either.
I refuse to watch it because
I
you see,
do.
like we saw in the teaser, they're going to drive. I don't want to be.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, John.
Sorry, I spoiled.
I hate spoilers. I really do.
I mean,
But
it's
let me defend your ass before
Okay.
you start
Guys.
mouthing off. My gosh, just give me a second.
Yes, sir.
I hate spoilers, but I feel like Game of Thrones does a perfect job at teasing ahead without actually spoiling anything.
Yes.
Gosh. Spoiler alert, I was defending you.
Yeah.
Well, in the next trailer, there's armies building and
And then
like,
you go
on the battlefield ready to go.
and
So.
then he does it again.
John will take a 40-year-old
I'm telling
movie.
you what they said. I've already said it. So
John doesn't understand spoilers, or else he gets giddy with actually spoiling things. I don't know what it is, but he'll be like, "Oh, that movie came out 40 years ago. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody." But then, like something that came out 24 hours ago, "Oh, let me spoil." Anyway, we won't get into that.
Speaking of spoilers, can we talk about the moment that was almost the best when Sir Christian almost got himself eaten, and then
Oh, you know that one.
luckily, I know it's not happening.
Never gonna happen.
I know it's not happening this early. Well, I mean,
Not with Gwen.
everybody
Gwen's-
dies at some
Gwen's
point.
right
but
there, dude.
Everybody dies at some point, but it's like, oh, that's it. Nope, never mind. That's not it.
Cole heads off with an army to the Riverlands in Harrenhal. In an open field, that's when he spots the threat of the dragon high above. But Rockstar, this episode actually took what was the most hated character going into it and sort of made you sympathize with him because he's having to deal
No.
with
Say what?
No.
he's having to deal with Gawain or whatever.
No, because Alicent's just as bad as any of them.
Hey,
So
what-
not adding another family member of hers in there going to make it any better.
What did she give him? Am I stupid when she?
Handkerchief.
Yeah, like what? And what?
It's like because like, hey,
I need a piece of
I'm
you.
your secret girlfriend. Here's my
Okay,
my
I'm
token
actually-
so that you can take it with you.
I just thought that was weird. Like it was so meaningful to him and everything. But yeah,
Hey,
like
can we at least say we didn't have to end an episode with Alicent and Kristen getting it on because we were 2 for 2 so far for the first 2
he
episodes.
has to get on with Gwen. No ends.
Cole isn't as bad as everyone's making
Yes,
him
he
out to
is.
be. He's not as bad. He
And Dave-
actually, the more you look at these buffoons that are surrounding the king, you start to realize like Cole is not as much of a buffoon.
He's the biggest one. He's the hand now, and
then-
then he left. So who's the hand now that he's gone off to
This
wherever?
is where Laris starts.
Yeah, the
to
horse
come in.
whisper. What do they call
Master
it? I need
of
a
Whispers.
Master of
Whisperer.
whispers. And then Portnoy didn't have any lines yesterday.
That is correct.
He's always at the
He's had
council
like
room.
one, yeah.
Always just sitting there.
He's low key one of my top 5 favorite characters.
I
in
do
the
like
thing
when he just-
because every
just-
time he's on there, he's like, he looks around like, is anyone going to stop what's happening to me? Like he always looks around, and I love that they still have those giant balls in the
Yeah.
middle of the table that they just sort of like.
Christian got his own now.
Yeah, because when he came in, I saw.
Yeah, I got
that's
my
the
own
first time
ball.
I think I've ever seen somebody come in, pick it up from the middle, and actually put it there. It's
And
usually
the-
always just there.
And the power move to make them wait.
How do we think Aemond is
the hand
going
now.
to respond to the ridicule? Do we think that he's going to turn against the king because the Master of Whispers is sort of planting the seed here? And I think he's a important political tool that if we do see a quick throne change here, I mean, Aemond is right there in the wings, ready to jump in and take over.
Who is heir now?
I
because the heir got killed, but I don't know if they ever officially said, "Oh, so it's going to be my daughter," or "Oh, it's going to be Aemond." Or
John,
whoever.
you know this series is all about who has the best argument, not that we're going to stick to a script of like who's
somebody
next
still
in
got
line.
to technically be there. So I just didn't know if they had actually said anything, or if they're still reeling from the death of his
Aemon's
son.
got to be considered. Aemon's got to be considered.
I mean,
he
should be him.
He has benefit to this not going well for the current king. So
Of the false throne, it should be him.
yes. What did y'all think of the exchange between Alicent and Helena? Because she basically said, "I forgive you," which
Yeah.
was a way for the very first time for Helena to acknowledge what she saw the
I walked
night
in on
of the
you.
blood and cheese event. Like, it was the very first time where Alicent's actually been in any way held responsible for her affair with Kristen Cole.
I didn't take it as that. I take it as I forgive you for making me be behind my headless son.
Oh, you
And the
didn't-
I took it as
Oh,
that.
I took it as I
'cause
forgive
she-
you that night. Basically, he died because Kristen wasn't where he was
I
supposed
took
to
it like
be.
Alicent, like she was
'Cause
like,
y'all were
because
doing
Alicent was
things.
one, hey, we're doing this tomorrow in the procession. You're going to be, she's like, I don't want to do that. No, that's our responsibility.
Could
You're,
it technically be both?
It could be all encompassing of, hey, it ain't been going
'Cause
good
it's
the
almost
last
like-
couple of weeks, so I
it's
forgive
almost,
you.
it's almost as Alicent has to say, like, I'm sorry, but forgive me for what? Like, there's been a lot. What do you forgive me for? There's been a lot. You got to narrow it down.
I forgive you for points A, B,
Yeah.
and D, but not point C. Ooh, I can't do that.
Because she had that huge panic attack, and that, like, I just thought that was such an emotional roller coaster for her, and I think Alicent was at fault for that, for her and Otto coming up with it.
We saw a new character in the bar scene
Say
that
he's a half
identifies
brother.
himself as Dragon Seed,
Yeah.
saying that he is Targaryen or Valerian. He's a bastard that was fathered in the Blackwater Bay region. Going to be an important figure for the next couple of episodes, potentially?
See,
I
I'm
mean,
still
trying not to look ahead at spoilers
But
based
it's
on the
never
books.
mentioned again. Like,
Well, like
never.
I'm not either, because I'm still curious about that Aaron and Adam of Hull or whatever,
Yeah.
like the two characters that were with the Sneeze Snake. Like there's just been little teases of
Yeah.
so many different characters from so many different angles. It's like,
Some of these are gonna matter, but you can't tell which ones because they're introducing so many.
'cause I was about to get mad when they had the kids at the beginning. I'm like, who are these people? And then they all ended up dying. But like, that then set up a story. But these characters so far, like, oh, so do you have? Remember who was it Gendry? We kept saying it's like, Gendry
that
technically
was-
has a claim to the throne.
That's who I thought was
You know,
going to win the Iron
because
Throne.
he's a Baratheon, and Baratheon was on the throne, so he should have a claim. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, at least we had some backstory on that character, and I don't remember Gendry's first introduction. Maybe it was small like this because he was just like a lowly blacksmith.
Yeah.
But there's all
I
these
think
different
Ned
characters.
Stark's walking through King's Landing and sees him or something.
Like, I'm sure we'll get there. They're really good about eventually getting there, but it's starting to add up now, and we haven't gone back to some of these characters because there's little bits that we haven't quite gotten to, and
Trickles.
they don't need to add more trickles without getting to the trickles you had before.
Dragonseed got an introduction that was really important feeling. I mean, it was like the Copacabana scene from Goodfellas where he's walking in there and like, hey, he's like passing all the chefs and stuff. It was a big moment. And plus he's running his mouth and then immediately, when Aegon walks in, he completely shuts up and reverses tune there. But I found it to be an interesting character introduction, even though we don't know necessarily yet how he's going to be used in this series. I do love that the series sometimes it strays away from the book, and so it's not as easy to spoil as those who have read the book can just put everything they want in there. But there are some big things that are about to go down for sure, and I really severely miss Otto Hightower. I thought he was missed in this episode. I think he is...
I'm sure he'll be back.
he will be back, and I can't wait to see what happens with Otto, as it appears as if...
So Kristen's with my son now? What?
Yeah, what is it? Is he... Who did he go back to? Is it Old Town to end up meeting up with in Otto? Wasn't it like his nephew or his...
I don't remember exactly.
Maybe his another grandson? I don't know, but he's going to be bringing some help with him for sure. So... that's where we're at here with Game of Thrones, episode 3 of season 2. All the pieces are now put into place, and I think we are about to see the bloodiest episode yet of House of the Dragon with episode 4, which I believe is being rumored to already have a title, A Dance of Dragons. And that tells you...
like Sadie Hawkins.
That tells you all. No, it's not like that. All you need to know about how bloody this thing is going to get in episode 4. If episode 4 is a lot of maneuvering and talking and political backstabbing again, there's going to be a lot of upset people.
Have they said, like, hey, we plan to make the show last X amount of seasons? Have they like come out and said that?
We just know that season 3's already been approved, but
I was
that's
just
all
curious to
I know.
see how fast we progressed in certain phases of the book. I've just looked at quick summaries. I haven't read the books, but I'm curious to see like when we get to certain points, because Dance of Dragons I feel like is the name of like the war.
Yeah.
That like the actual civil war that happened. So I guess this will be the start of it.
It seems like it will be. We got the unofficial start of it this time around with an off-screen battle, but it looks like we're going to be getting some on-screen battles here for episode 4, and it is set to pack a lot of punch. There were 10 episodes in the first season, 8 episodes in this season, and it is going to be riveting to see how this all plays out on screen. Are you enjoying House of the Dragon? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. John, we'd also love to send all of our lovely following over to MyBookie.
Go to mybookie.ag, promo code next round. You see it right there in the corner. Play in the sportsbook, play the casino, play the live casino with real dealers, real cards, real roulette wheels. Go play over there, mybookie.ag, promo code next round.
I have a title for John from now on. How about the Master of Spoilers? Can we go with that?
He even spoiled your joke.
I know. I know.
You know why? Because I'm the master of it.
Everything is on fire like we
There's
just
a
saw
guy
from
named
Young
Han
Tyler.
Solo. Let me tell you what happens to him.
I
Sorry.
spoiled the show.
That's going to do it for House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 3. What'd you think of the episode? We'd love to know in the comment section below right here on The Meltdown.